Nice to meet you, Mr. Dusek. Thanks for taking our interview.
Thanks for having me.
My first question is, what is your expectations for China's economic growth?
Well, first of all, we're very happy to be back in Dalian for the 15th Sommer Davos. It's a great tradition that we have, convening our second largest gathering globally here in China. And we were in Tianjin last year, and as is tradition, we are in Dalian now. Speaking of tradition, we're also extremely happy that the Premier of China is again opening with his opening address. You may know he was in Davos with us in January and provided a lot of information in terms of economic priorities for China. And so we look forward to his address tomorrow on the economic picture there. And just to say also that this meeting has always played a very important role, because in a way it's 3 meetings in one. And so it's always been a global meeting. And so we'll be focusing a lot on the global economy here, given the fact that we, as Kristalina Georgieva from the IMF said, we are facing tepid 20s. So with the low growth environment we have right now, 3%, really we need to find new sources of growth. And I think this was, of course, a big on the agenda in Davos, but this is a midpoint through the year, very important. Number 2, it's an Asia meeting, and 2/3 of global growth last year was coming from Asia. It is anticipated the same this year, so we are within the tepid 3%. We are in the growth markets of the world. And finally, it's always been a meeting about China, about the Chinese economy. But I think given also how, of course we had COVID, we couldn't really travel that much. So last year already it was important, but I think this year maybe even more important in terms of really providing a platform for all these leaders that are coming from all geographies of the world to really understand where the Chinese economy is. And it's not only about the governmental priorities, which of course are important, and as I said, I'm sure also the Premier will talk about it. But I think what is also very important here is that we have a lot of business leaders from China participating here. And so for then the leaders from outside to be able to interact with them and maybe take a practical look at what is actually taking place in Chinese industry is very important. And finally, which I think is a very interesting area, and I think it's rising in importance, is people are very, very curious to understand what is taking place in the innovation ecosystem of China. I think it's partly also because of the COVID separation, if you will. We couldn't really travel, exchange information as much as before, but you see there is a lot of curiosity in industry and other, to really understand how things are done in terms of innovation in China, because things have been developing here, if you, for example, take the automotive sector or other sectors, quite uniquely. And so there is a lot of that as well. People are very curious to learn what's taking place in the Chinese economy.